What is the most fireable thing you have seen someone do at work that didn't get them fired? He hit the OSHA inspector with a forklift. A security guard jerked off on a bed in one of our unused rooms for our clients. I work in a residential adolescent mental health facility for a month until someone found the bed absolutely covered in cum. Badge scanners were checked and the guy was identified. But instead of firing him, he was just moved to the guard's shack. Work drunk. This was in car sales. Dude showed up drunk or heavy hangover constantly. But he sold a lot of cars. Somehow. So they didn't care. Stole $40,000 from the company. How did she not get fired? She had proof the owner of the company was raping a 13-year-old, his stepdaughter. Well, she bragged to someone about how she was untouchable and why. That person reported it to CPS. CPS investigated and the guy figured he had nothing left to lose. So he reported her for grand larceny. They both got arrested on the same day. I worked in a kitchen in high school and a guy bled on a pizza and still served it. When I worked retail, I once challenged a customer to step outside and fight. The customer'll never forget this, said, "Dude, you're at work," and walked out, shaking his head. Sometimes the customer is right. It was me. But I faked a coworker's death by putting a makeshift memorial up in his assigned parking spot on April 1st. It had his picture. Flowers. A handful of candles. The whole deal. The head of HR was not amused. Everyone else loved it though. Supervisor freaked the fuck out on the sales guy and just clocked out. It was a super busy shipping day and he was just done. He got to the end of the driveway and turned around and clocked back in, and they just acted like he didn't tell him to fuck off, lol. Tried his damnedest to sleep with the boss's wife while out at a work party. Got fired months later for something completely unrelated. Accidentally send out the entire company's 3,000 employees' headcount to the company distro. File contained everyone's salary, birthday, government numbers, etc. What are you gonna do? Fire me. I'm your only line cook that'll take 3 waiters, a busboy, and the dishwasher with me if I leave. I was the dishwasher. Smoking crack. Being visibly high on crack. On the job multiple times. Everyone in department, including management, knew this was going on. He was 4th-year electrical apprentice who could not pass journeyman's exam. Because, crack. Worked at a deli for a summer that hired a bunch of high school kids with a large sweaty checked out manager. I was one of the high school kids. One of the other 2 had a block of Havarti cheese they just opened to cut off 6 slices for her old lady. It was near the end of the day, so instead of putting the rest of the block of cheese in Saran wrap and in the refrigerator, he put it down the garbage disposal. Just pushed it down with barbecue tongs while doing the shush gesture at me with his lips and other index finger. I just thought, well, that's fucked up. Watched a coworker rent an entire big box retail store parking lot to a BMW dealership for cash on the side so they could park excess inventory. Corporate didn't know. He pocketed all the money. Not do her job. Find any excuse to avoid work. Spend half the day chatting on the phone. Then work unapproved overtime, claiming that she had too much work and needed to catch up. Yes, I'm talking about you, Stephanie. Worst coworker I ever had. Curse out the boss in front of an entire team of employees. Not me. He was a manager. Girl wanted to get hired. He told her he would hire her if he got a BJ. She agreed and he went to the bathroom and waited. Instead, she went to his manager's office just down the hall and reported him. Instead of getting fired, he was demoted one step. I think because of lack of evidence. But this is totally something everyone that knew him would agree is something he'd do. He never made it back to manager even though he constantly tried. That's some justice, but that prick should have lived in a box for that. Saying in front of HR. And I quote, "All right. Which one of you boys is going to slap my face? Grab my throat? Call me a dirty whore and spit in my mouth?" Talking shit about the manager while sitting about 50 feet from his desk. Manager just walked away. Called the manager a fat effing CT, walked out and returned the next day like nothing happened. The dude showed up drunk to work. He drove. Manager sent him home. I asked why he wasn't fired and she said it was because he never clocked in. So he technically wasn't intoxicated at work. Looking back, I think that manager really wanted to jump that guy's bones. A guy got a DUI and lost his license for 3 months and didn't tell anyone at work about. He drove a company truck daily for work and they only found out after he got his license back. I know he was still there 5 years later. Literally not working. She would get to work at 6:30 and I would see her leaving as I pulled in at 8:00. Her boss hadn't even arrived yet. This was like 4-5 days per week. She maybe stayed till 2:00 on the good days. They tried to fire her and were told it was impossible to fire anyone for anything at a university. They waited for the grant to run out and then didn't put her on the new one. It took 2 years. In a hospital, the person went out to get a patient and called out in the waiting room, "Where's my little insert name of disease the infant had baby?" Basically just told all the people in the room what disease the baby had and the mother's jaw dropped and was furious. Nothing happened. She ended up quitting on her own 3-4 years later. Selling pot in the office. I worked in a call center where a co-worker got caught. Not once but twice. For masturbating at his desk when speaking with female customers. HR spoke with him about it. Everyone knew what he had done but they just kept him on regardless. It's a tie. One supervisor engaged in sexual intercourse with one of his associates bent over her workspace. 2 supervisor leaving a company function. Hit 2 cars in front of 3 cops. Ran a red light. Then drove back to the plant. Across the back lot. Bogged down to the axles and was caught trying to run away on foot. A director of customer engagement publicly, in a department-wide recorded meeting, told everyone he was going to participate in wage theft against his subordinates. I've never downloaded and saved a Zoom meeting faster. Then, when he didn't get reprimanded or anything, I took that video to the labor board and sued them for wage theft. It just boggles my mind how a popular, well-known startup would allow someone like that to remain on staff. Last I heard, half the call center was going after them for wage theft under the same condition that I did. Constantly watched people drink on the job and couldn't say anything because management was doing it too. Run a porn and MP3 site off the corporate network while doing coke off his desk. Fuck his assistant in our wellness room during business hours. Smoke joints in the bathroom and then proceed to blame it on me. Our boss wrote me up deadpan face.